Kirrin Island Again by Enid Blyton. Anne was trying to do some of her prep in a corner of the common room when her cousin George came bursting in. George was not a boy. She was a girl called Georgina. But because she'd always wanted to be a boy, she insisted on being called George. So George she was. She wore her curly hair short, and her bright blue eyes gleamed angrily now as she came towards Anne.
Anne, I've just received a letter from home. And what do you think? Father wants to go and live on my island to do some special work.
On Kirrin Island?
Yes, it's just like grown-ups. They go and give you things and then act as though the things were theirs all the time. I don't want Father living on my island.
Oh, George, you know your father's a scientist who needs to work in peace. I don't see why you mind. I wouldn't mind my father borrowing an island from me, if I was lucky enough to have one.
Your father would talk to you about it first. To think that all my lovely holiday plans are spoilt. You know how super Kirrin Island is at Easter time, and you and Julian and Dick were coming to stay.
I know, it is hard luck. It would have been wizard to go and stay on the island these holes. But George, don't spend the rest of the day brooding, for goodness sake. Go down to the kennels and fetch Timmy. He'll soon cheer you up.
Oh!
Timothy was George's dog, whom she loved with all her heart. He was a big, scruffy, brown mongrel dog, and all the cousins loved him. The five of them had had many happy times together. But it took George a long time to get over the fit of gloom caused by her mother's letter. Even having Timmy on her bed each night till he was discovered by an angry teacher did not quite make up for her disappointment. The term ran swiftly on to its end. Holidays came nearer and nearer. This term, both Julian and Dick and the girls broke up on the same day. They could meet in London and travel down to Kirrin together. The day came at last, and soon all five, Julian, Dick, Anne, George and Timmy, were on the train for Kirrin. Aunt Fanny was at the station to meet them in the pony trap. The children were very fond of her. She was kind and gentle and did her best to keep her clever, impatient husband from finding too much fault with the children.
Off we go then. I expect you're pleased to be on holiday, aren't you, Julian?
I should say so, Aunt Fanny. And it's nice to be back in Kirrin again. How's Uncle Quentin?
He's very well. I'm terribly excited. Really, I've never known him to be so thrilled as he has been lately. His work has been coming along very successfully.
I suppose you don't know what his latest experiment is?
Oh, no, Dick, I don't. He never tells anyone anything while he's at work, except his colleagues, of course.
Oh.
But I do know it's very important. And I know that the last part of the experiment has to be made in a place where there is deep water all around. Don't ask me why. I don't know.
Oh, look, there's Kirrin Island.
Yes, Anne, there it is. Kirrin Island.
But what's that?
What's what, darling?
That tower thing on my island. There, in the centre of the castle. It looks like some sort of lighthouse.
That's for your father's experiment, George, dear.
Oh, Mother, I don't like it. It spoils Kirrin Island.
Darling, it can come down when your father has finished his work. It can easily be pulled down.
Oh, I'd love to go and see it. It looks so strange. Is Uncle Quentin all alone on Kirrin Island, Aunt Fanny?
Yes, and I don't like him to be alone. For one thing, I am sure he doesn't get his meals properly.
Well, Aunt Fanny, you could always get him to signal to you each morning and night, couldn't you? He could flash using a mirror, you know, and at night he could signal with a lamp.
Well, perhaps, Julian, dear, you could arrange something of the sort with your uncle.
Gracious! Do you mean Father wants us to invade his secret lair and actually see his strange tower? Well, I don't think I want to go. After all, it's my island.
Oh, George, don't begin all that again. You and your island.
Now, come on, for goodness sake, don't start arguing. Look, here's Kirrin Cottage. Doesn't it look sweet with all the primroses in the garden?
It certainly did. The 4 children and Timmy tore in at the front gate, delighted to be back. They clattered into the house and, to their great delight, found Joanna the cook there. Julian and Dick took everything upstairs. Anne joined them, eager to see her old bedroom again. Oh, how good it was to be in Kirrin Cottage once more. She looked out of the windows. One looked onto the moor at the back. The other looked sideways onto the sea. Next day was fine and warm, and Aunt Fanny suggested they go across to the island in George's boat. Uncle Quentin had got one of the local fishermen to take him across. There was only one place to land on the island in safety. This was a little cove, a natural little harbour sheltered by high rocks. George and Julian worked their way to the smooth inlet of water running into the shore. And there, in the centre of the island, was old Kirrin Castle, its tumble-down towers full of jackdaws as usual. But now there was the curious new tower too. It was not built of brick, but some smooth, shiny material that was fitted together in sections.
Isn't it strange? Look at the little glass room at the top, like a lookout room. Wonder what it's for. Can anyone climb up inside the tower, Aunt Fanny?
Oh, yes. There's a narrow spiral staircase inside. But it's the little room at the top that's important.
Why's that?
It has got some extraordinary wiring there, essential to your uncle's experiments.
I should like to go up the tower.
Well, perhaps your uncle will let you.
If he's in a good temper.
Now, George, you're not to say things like that.
The boat ran into the little harbour and grounded softly. George leapt out with Julian, and they pulled it up a little further, so the others could get out without wetting their feet. Out they all got, and Timmy ran up the beach in delight. They walked to the great broken archway that was the entrance to the old castle. The castle had 2 towers. One was almost a complete ruin. The other was in better shape. Jackdaws circled round it and flew above the children's heads.
Mother, where would Father be? Where's his workshop?
Well, really, I don't exactly know. I suppose he works over there. He's always met me down at the cove, and we've just sat on the sand and had a picnic and talked. He didn't seem to want me to poke round much.
Let's call him. Uncle Quentin! Uncle Quentin! Where are you?
I can't see him.
Uncle Quentin!
Oh, my goodness, what a noise. I should think Joanna will have heard that at home. Oh, dear. Where is your uncle? This is most annoying of him. I told him I'd bring you across today.
Oh, well, he must be somewhere about. We'll just have to hunt for him. He's not here. And what's more, there's nothing here at all. No food, no clothes, no books, no stores of any sort. This is not his workroom, nor even his store.
Then he must be down in the dungeons. Perhaps he has to work underground with water all around. Let's go and find the entrance.
All right.
He must be down in the dungeons, Aunt Fanny. Are you coming down?
Oh, no. I can't bear those dungeons. I'll sit out here in the sun and unpack the sandwiches. It's almost lunchtime.
They went towards the dungeon entrance, expecting to see the big flat stone that covered the entrance to be standing upright, so they might go down the steps underground. But the stone was lying flat. Julian was just about to pull on the iron ring to lift it up, when he noticed weeds growing round the edges of the stone. Nobody had lifted it for a long time. Uncle Quentin wasn't down in the dungeons either.
We'll go up in the tower, just in case he's up there working.
What's this stuff it's made of?
Some kind of new plastic material, I should think.
I'd be afraid it'd blow down in a gale.
So would I. Look, here's the door.
Not much room in here.
What are those wires?
Better not touch them. Goodness, this is like a tower out of a fairy tale. Come on, I'm going up the stairs to the top.
Oh, well, Father's not here, I see.
No.
But look at those wires. They run right up through that strange thick glass at the top. What do you think they're for? Catching wireless waves or something?
No idea.
And we've no idea where Uncle Quentin is either, have we? Where can he be? I suppose he's still on the island.
Of course he is. Come on, let's go back down.
The children went down the spiral stairs and back to Aunt Fanny. They sat in the warm April sunshine eating the picnic they had brought with them. There was orangeade to drink, cool and delicious. Timmy wandered over to a rock pool where rainwater collected, and he could be heard lapping there. Then a curious noise came to their ears, a rumbling, grumbling, angry noise, like a giant hidden dog growling in fury. This was followed by a hissing noise from the tower, and all the wires at the top were suddenly lit up, as if by lightning.
What's that?
There now. I knew your father was about somewhere, darling. I heard that noise when I was here.
Where did it come from? It sounded almost as if it was underneath us, but it couldn't have been. Gracious, this is most mysterious.
Oh, look! There's Uncle Quentin, standing over there near the tower. He's watching the jackdaws.
Quentin, so there you are.
Well, this is a surprise. I had no idea you were all coming over today.
Oh, Quentin, I wrote it down for you in your diary. You know I did.
Did you? Well, I haven't looked in my diary since, so it's no wonder I forgot.
But where were you, Uncle Quentin? We looked for you for ages.
Oh, I was in my workroom.
But we looked everywhere. We even went up the tower to see if you were in that funny glass room at the top.
What? You dared to go up there? You might have been in great danger. I've just finished an experiment. Don't ever go into that tower again. I tell you, it's dangerous. Now, I'll have one of those sandwiches if nobody wants them.
Here, there's plenty.
Thanks.
Oh, Quentin, you're starving. I shall come over here and look after you.
Oh, no. I can't have my work interfered with. I'm working on an extremely important discovery.
Is it a discovery that nobody else knows about, Uncle?
Well, I'm not sure about that. That's partly why I came over here, you see, besides the fact that I needed water around me and above me. I have a feeling that somebody knows a bit more than I want them to know. But there's one thing. They can't come here unless they're shown a way through all those rocks that lie around the island. Only a few of the fishermen know that, and they've been given orders not to bring anyone here. I think you're the only other person who knows the way, George.
But you still haven't told us where your workroom is.
What does it matter where I work?
I suppose it doesn't matter a bit, really. It's only that I was curious to know.
Quentin, you don't think there's any danger for you here, do you? I mean, you don't think anyone would try to come spying on you, as they did once before?
No, how could they?
But it wouldn't be too much bother to signal to Aunt Fanny twice a day, would it, Uncle? To put Aunt Fanny's mind at rest.
If you don't, I shall come over every day to see you.
And we might come too.
Well, I could signal in the morning and in the evening when I go to the top of the tower to readjust the wires. I'll signal then, 10:30 in the morning and 10:30 at night.
How will you signal? Will you flash with a mirror in the morning?
Yes, that would be a good idea. And I'll use the lantern at night. I'll shine it out 6 times at 10:30. Then perhaps you'll all know I'm all right and leave me alone. Now, if you will excuse me, it's time to get to work again. I'll see you to your boat.
The next day was rainy. The 4 children put on their mackintoshes and went for a walk with Timmy. They never minded the weather. In fact, Julian said he really liked the feel of the wind and rain buffeting against his face.
I should think we must be the only people out this morning.
Well, you're wrong. There are 2 people coming towards us.
Oh, yes.
They look well wrapped up anyway.
Yes.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's not so good, really, is it?
We don't mind.
Well, it seems to be easing up a bit, anyhow.
Yes.
My name's Mr. Curtin, and this is my son, Martin.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Julian, and this is George and Anne.
Hello. And I'm Dick.
Well, it's nice to meet you all. And, who's this?
This is Timmy. Best dog in the world. I've had him for years, but he's still as young as ever. Do you like dogs?
Oh, yes, I do. Very much. And what's that little island over there we can see? That looks interesting.
That's Kirrin Island. It's mine. My very own.
Really? Could you let me go over there one day then?
Well, not just at present. You see, my father's there, working. He's a scientist.
Really? Ah, is he doing some sort of experiment then?
Yes.
And that weird tower you can just see, is it something to do with it, I suppose? When will the experiment be finished then?
What's that got to do with you?
Oh, nothing really. I only thought that if his work will soon be finished, perhaps your brother could take me over there to the island.
My brother? Oh, George, you mean?
Yes.
Of course I'll take you. It shouldn't be too long before I do either. The experiment is nearly done.
And do you know the way through all those rocks? I shouldn't care to try it. I was talking to the fishermen the other day, and not one of them appeared to know the way.
Did you want to go to the island then?
Oh, no, but my boy here would love to go. I don't want to be seasick, bobbing up and down on those waves near the island. I'm a poor sailor. I never go on the sea if I can help it.
Well, we'd better be off now, I'm afraid.
Oh, right. Well, come and see us sometime. We're in the cottage next door to the Coast Guards. Come any afternoon you like.
Oh, thanks. We'll do that. Whatever made you sound so rude, Dick? The way you said, "What's that got to do with you?" sounded quite insulting.
Well, I just felt suspicious, that's all. That boy seemed to be jolly interested in the island and in your father's work.
And why shouldn't he be? Everybody in the village is interested. They all know about the tower. And all the boy wanted to know was when he could go to the island. That's why he asked when Father's work could be finished. I liked him.
You only liked him because he's ass enough to think you were a boy.
I did not.
Julian had to step in to stop George and Dick arguing. But by evening, George had calmed down, and the bay was softly blue as the 4 gazed across to Kirrin Island. It always looked so lovely at this time of evening. Then, as the children watched, they heard a faint rumbling sound, and suddenly the top of the tower was ablaze with a curious glare. Bedtime came, and the 4 went to bed. Anne was asleep long before 10:30, and George was so drowsy that she could not make herself get up to go into the boys' room. But Dick and Julian were both wide awake. They lay in their beds and looked out of the window. There was no moon, but the night was clear, and the stars shone down, giving a faint light. The sea looked very black. There was no sign of Kirrin Island. It was lost in the darkness of the night.
Almost 10:30. Now then, Uncle Quentin, what about it?
Look, there's a light, see?
Right on time. 1 flash, 2 flashes,
3, 4, 5...
and 6. Well, that's it. Uncle Quentin's all right. I say, it's weird to think of him climbing that spiral stairway right to the top of the tower in the dark of night, isn't it?
Rather him than me.
Hello?
It's me, dears. Did you see the flashes? I forgot to count them. Were there 6?
Oh, yes, Aunt Fanny. I'd have rushed to tell you if anything was wrong. Uncle's all right, don't you worry.
The next day dawned bright and sunny, and the 4 tore down to breakfast. They decided to go to the old quarry and look for prehistoric weapons. They all liked hunting for things. It would be fun to go to the old quarry, and it would be lovely and warm in the hollow there. First, though, they waited for Uncle Quentin's signal at 10:30. It came. 6 flashes of a mirror in the sun. The flashes were quite blinding. Then off they went to the quarry. It wasn't very far, only about a quarter of a mile. It was a strange place. At some time or other, it had been deeply quarried for stone. Now violets grew there by the thousands, both purple and white. Cowslips were opening too, the earliest anywhere. The children climbed down to where they wanted to go. The girls to a great patch of big primroses, the boys to a place where they thought they might find stone weapons. Then suddenly they heard a voice, one they thought they recognized. It was Martin Curtin, the boy they had met the day before.
Hello.
Why, it's you. Hello.
We've come here to find stone weapons. What have you come for?
Oh, to see if I can find stone weapons too.
And have you found any?
No, not yet.
Well, you won't find any there. Not in heather. You want to come over here where the ground is bare and gravelly. See, Timmy's got the idea.
What's he doing?
Hunting rabbits. I shouldn't go near him unless you want to be buried in earth. Hey, Timmy, is a rabbit really worth all that hard work? Ow! Watch what you're doing, Timmy. That stone flew up and hit me then. Oh, well done, Timmy. Look at this. A jolly fine arrowhead, I'd say. Thanks, Timmy, old fellow.
Martin did not say much. He just looked at the arrowhead and then turned away. Dick thought he was a strange fellow, a little dull and boring. He wondered if they ought to ask him to their picnic. He didn't want to in the least, but George did, and she invited him to share their sandwiches.
Best sandwiches I've ever tasted. Does your mum make them, George? I wish I had a mother. Mine died ages ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I saw your father flashing his signals last night.
How do you know he was signalling? Who told you?
Nobody. I just saw 6 flashes and I thought it must be George's father.
And I bet scores of other people saw the flashes too, Dick. What's it matter?
What's Timmy up to now?
Oh, Timmy, come here. Where are you going? Oh, look, he's disappeared down that hole. Timmy, come back here. Julian, throw me down your trowel, will you?
Here!
Thanks. Now, where have you got to, Timmy?
Soon, George had made the hole big enough to get through. She was surprised to find quite a large passage. From somewhere deep in the quarry side, there came the sound of pattering feet, and Timmy pressed affectionately against her legs. Happy that she had found Timmy, she made her way back to the entrance and crawled out blinking into the sunlight.
George, where have you been?
It's all right, Dick. I've only been rabbiting with Timmy. There's a passage behind the entrance to the hole under the rock. At first, it's just a narrow tunnel. Then it gets wider and becomes a proper high, wide passage. I couldn't see if it went on, of course, because it was dark. Timmy was a long way in.
Goodness, it sounds exciting.
Let's explore it, shall we? I expect Julian's got a torch.
No, not today. Anyway, it may be nothing. Just an old tunnel made by the quarrymen.
Oh, I wish we could explore it. It looks interesting. Maybe we could plan to meet again with torches and see if there really is a passage there.
Sometime, maybe.
I say, would you like to come back to our cottage? We've got a new television set and there's a television programme on you might like to see.
Oh, yes. Shall we, Julian?
All right, if everyone's agreed.
So they all made their way to Martin's cottage. His father was sitting at the window reading when they went inside. They all shook hands politely. Martin explained hurriedly that he had brought the children to see a television programme. The four looked around the little room. There was the television set. And there was something else that made the boys stare with interest.
You've got a transmitting set, I see.
Yes, it's a hobby of mine.
What's a transmitting set?
Oh, it means to send out messages by radio, like police cars have, when they send back messages to the police station.
That's right.
This is a very powerful one, though.
Yes, it is. I say, why don't you all stay to tea? Now, don't say no. I'll ring up and ask your aunt if you like, or if you're afraid she might be worried.
Well, if you do that, sir, I think she would wonder where we'd gone.
So Mr. Curtin rang up Aunt Fanny, who said it would be all right for them to stay. Then, after the television programme, they settled down to an unexpectedly good tea. Martin was not very talkative, but Mr. Curtin made up for it. He laughed and joked and was altogether very good company. The talk came round to Kirrin Island. Mr. Curtin said how beautiful it looked each evening, and George looked pleased.
Yes, I always think that. I do wish Father hadn't chosen this particular time to work on my island. I'd planned to go and stay there.
I suppose you know every inch of it.
Oh, yes, we all do. There are dungeons there, you know. Real dungeons that go deep down. Once we found gold ingots.
Yes, I remember reading about that. And that must have been exciting. I fancy finding the dungeons, too.
Yes, and there is a cave where we once lived. It's got an entrance through the roof as well as from the sea.
And I suppose your father is conducting his marvellous experiments down in the dungeons. What a strange place to work in.
No, Ow!
Something wrong?
No, nothing.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that, we don't know which place Father has chosen. What's the matter, Timmy?
He's finding the room too hot, I expect. Better take him out for a bit, George.
All right. Come on, Timmy.
I'll come with you. Excuse us, Mr. Curtin.
Why, yes, of course.
What do you think you're doing, Dick? Why did you kick me like that under the table? I'll have a most frightful bruise.
You know jolly well why I did, giving everything away like that. Can't you see the chap's very interested in your father being on the island? There may be nothing in it at all. But you might at least keep your mouth shut. Just like a girl, can't help blabbing. I had to stop you somehow. I don't mind telling you I trod jolly hard on poor old Timmy's tail too, to make him yelp so you'd stop talking.
Oh, you beast! How could you hurt Timmy?
I didn't want to.
I'm going home. I hate you talking to me like that. And stamping on Timmy's tail. You can go back and say I'm taking Timmy home.
Right. And a jolly good thing too. The less you talk to Mr. Curtin, the better. I'm going back to find out exactly what he is and what he does. I'm getting jolly suspicious.
Almost choking with rage, George went off with Timmy. Dick went back to make her apologies. Julian and Anne, sure that something was up, felt most uncomfortable. They rose to go, but to their surprise, Dick became very talkative and interested in Mr. Curtin and what he did. He discovered that Mr. Curtin was a journalist, so that's why he was interested in Kirrin Island. He wanted to make a splash when Uncle Quentin had finished his work. Dick realised he would have to explain to George that he was wrong, and he and Julian decided to get some bones from the butcher as an apology to Timmy. Julian checked Uncle Quentin's signal at 10:30 that evening. Next morning he waited again as he wrote some letters by the window. Ah, there was the first signal, blazing brightly as the sun caught the mirror held by his uncle in the tower.
1 flash. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's all right. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How strange. Why 12 flashes? Hello, here we go again. Another flash. That's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 flashes. What on earth can it mean?
see, Father flashed 18 times instead of 6.
Why did he do that? Is he in some sort of danger?
No, if he was, he'd flash the SOS signal.
He doesn't know Morse code.
Well, I expect he just wants to let us know he needs something. More food, probably.
So when Aunt Fanny came home, they suggested they should all go over to the island. Aunt Fanny packed plenty of food with Joanna's help, and they set off to Kirrin Island in George's boat. As they rounded the low wall of rocks and came into the little cove, they saw Uncle Quentin waiting for them. He waved his hand and helped to pull in the boat when it ran gently onto the sand.
We saw your treble signal. Did you want something, Quentin, dear?
Yes, I did. What's that you got in your basket, Fanny? More of those delicious sandwiches? Have some.
Oh, Quentin, haven't you been having your meals properly again? Here.
Thanks.
Well, dear, and how is your work getting on?
Very well. Couldn't be better. I've just got to a most tricky and interesting point. This sandwich is delicious.
But why did you signal 18 times, Uncle Quentin?
Well, it's difficult to explain, really. The fact is, I can't help feeling that there's somebody else on this island besides me.
Quentin, whatever do you mean?
Yes, I know. It sounds mad. Nobody else could possibly have got here. But I know there is someone.
But what makes you think there's somebody here?
Well, when I'd finished my experiment I was doing last night, about 3:30 in the early morning it would be, I came into the open for a breath of fresh air, and I could swear I heard someone cough. Yes, cough, twice.
Good gracious. But, Quentin, you might have been mistaken. You do imagine things sometimes, you know, when you're tired.
Yes, I know, but I couldn't imagine this, could I?
A cigarette end?
And I don't smoke cigarettes, nor do any of you. Well then, who smoked that cigarette? And how did he come here?
But what are you going to do, Quentin? What would be best?
I'll be all right if George will give her consent to something.
What's that, Father?
I want Timmy here. Will you leave him behind with me?
But, Father, Timmy and I have never been separated once. I do see you want him to guard you, and you can have him.
Thank you.
But I have to stay here too.
Oh, no, that's out of the question.
Mother, do tell Father I must stay here with Timmy.
Certainly not. Now, George, be unselfish. If it were left to Timmy to decide, you know perfectly well that he would stay here and stay without you. See? He's walked over to your father. He agrees with me. You've always said that Timmy was a good dog, and this proves it. He knows what his duty is. You ought to be proud of him.
All right. I'll leave him on the island with Father.
How long will it be before you've finished your work, Quentin, dear?
A few days more, that's all. You know, that dog might almost have known what you were saying, Fanny, just now. It was remarkable the way he walked straight over to me.
He's a very clever dog. Aren't you, Timmy? You'll be quite safe with him, Uncle Quentin.
Well, since I'm leaving Timmy behind for you, will you do something for me?
What? No silly conditions now. I'll look after him, you know.
Yes, I know. But when you go up in the tower to signal each morning, will you take Timmy with you? I can go up to the Coast Guard's cottage and look through his telescope. Then I can catch a glimpse of Timmy and know he's all right.
Very well.
And you'll give him a few kind words and a pat occasionally, Father, won't you? And
I shall treat Timmy like a proper grown-up dog, George. And believe me, that's the way he wants to be treated. Isn't it, Timmy?
Uncle, if anything goes wrong, or you want help or anything, flash 18 times again. You ought to be all right with Timmy. He's better than a dozen policemen, but you never know.
Right. 18 flashes if I want you over here for anything. I'll remember. Now you better all go. It's time I got on with my work.
Timmy went with them to the boat, but he did not attempt to get in. He stood by George's father and watched the boat bob away over the water. Her father waved, and Timmy wagged his tail. George took one of the pairs of oars from Dick and began to row furiously. Everyone talked a great deal, so that George would think they hadn't noticed her feelings at parting with Timmy. The talk, of course, was mostly about the unknown man on the island. It seemed very mysterious indeed that he should suddenly have arrived.
How did he get there? The fisherman wouldn't have taken him.
And no one could reach the island by swimming.
You're right.
I honestly do wonder if there is anyone on the island after all. Perhaps that cigarette was an old one.
It didn't look it. Well, it just beats me how anyone got there.
Yes.
I've just thought. Would it be possible for an aeroplane to parachute anyone down on the island?
Easily. I believe you've hit on an explanation, Jude. But I say, whoever it is must be in deadly earnest to risk being dropped on a small island like that in the dark of night.
I'm just glad that Timmy's there.
It was about 1:30 when they arrived back. Joanna had made some of their favourite ginger biscuits, which they munched ravenously.
What shall we do this afternoon, then?
Go and explore the quarry?
It's about to pour with rain. I don't think that clambering up and down the quarry in the wet would be very easy.
I'll tell you what we can do. Do you remember that old map of Kirrin Castle we found in a box? It had plans of the castle in it. Well, let's have it out and study it. Now we know there's another hiding place, we might be able to trace it on the map.
Now, that really is a brilliant idea of yours, Anne. Just the thing for a wet afternoon. Where is the map? I suppose you've got it somewhere safe, George.
Oh, yes, it's still in that old wooden box. I'll get it.
She disappeared upstairs and came down again with the map. It was made of thick parchment and yellow with age. She laid it out on the table and the others bent over, eager to look at it once more. It was in 3 parts. A plan of the dungeons, a plan of the ground floor, and a plan of the top.
It's no good bothering about the top part of the castle. It's all fallen down and ruined. There's practically nothing left except for that one tower.
I say, do you remember there were 2 entrances to the dungeons? One that seemed to start from that little stone room, and the other that started where we did at last find the entrance. Well, we never found the other entrance, did we?
No, we didn't. Look, there are steps shown here. Somewhere where that little room is. So there must be an entrance there. Here's the other flight of steps, the ones we did find, near the well.
I remember we hunted pretty hard for the entrance in the little room. Then we found the other entrance and forgot all about this one.
And I think Father has found the entrance we didn't find. The map's a bit blurred here, but it's plain there is an entrance here, with stone steps leading underground somewhere. Look, there's some sort of passage marked.
It joins up with the dungeons, I'd expect. If we explored them all, we should probably come across the stone steps leading from near that little room. Still, they may be ruined or fallen in now.
No, they can't be. I'm perfectly sure that's the entrance Father has found. And I'll tell you something that seems to prove it too.
What?
Well, do you remember the other day when we first went to see Father? He came to see us off at the boat, and we tried to see where he went but couldn't. But Dick said he saw the jackdaws rising up in a flock, as if they'd been disturbed.
Yes, the jackdaws build in the tower by the little room. Anyone going into the room would disturb them. You're right, George.
Do you suppose the unknown enemy on the island knows Uncle Quentin's hiding place? He could so easily shut him in if he did.
He hasn't gone there to shut Uncle up. He's gone there to steal his secret or find it out. Golly, I'm thankful he's got Timmy. Timmy could tackle a dozen enemies.
Not if they had guns.
Well, it's no good thinking things like that. We've had a jolly interesting half hour, and I think we've solved the mystery.
It's still raining, but it's a bit clearer. It looks as if the sun will be out soon. Let's go for a walk.
The walk took them to Mr. Curtin's cottage. As they went through the front gate, they heard his angry voice.
Well, you can't. Always wanting to mess about with a brush and paint. I thought I'd knock that idea out of your head. You lie still and get that ankle better. Spraining it just when I want your help.
Whatever is it? It's Mr. Curtin going out the back door. See?
Good, he's gone. And he didn't see us. Who would have thought such a genial, smiling fellow could have such a brutal voice when he loses his temper? Come on, let's pop in and see poor old Martin while there's a chance.
It's us. Can we come in?
Yes.
I say, why's your ankle bandaged? Have you had an accident?
I just twisted it. It was so painful I had to be carried here.
Where were you when you fell?
Well, I was walking on the edge of the quarry with my father. I slipped and I rolled a good way down.
I say, I hope you didn't give away our little secret to your father. You didn't tell him about that hole we found, did you?
I'm afraid I did. I didn't think it would matter. I'm sorry.
Blow! That was our little discovery. We wanted to explore it this afternoon, but we thought it would be so wet we'd slip.
And I suppose that's what happened to you, isn't it?
Yes. I'm really sorry if you thought it was your secret. I just mentioned it to my father out of interest, you know, for something to say. And he wanted to go and see it for himself.
I suppose journalists are like that. It's their job. All right, Martin, forget it.
Aren't you bored lying here?
Yes, awfully. I wanted to do some painting, but my father wouldn't let me.
Oh, you want to be an artist? I'd like that too.
And you can't even draw a cat that looks like one.
I'll show you some of my pictures. I have to keep them hidden away because my father can't bear me to want to be an artist.
Don't get up if you don't want to. I'll get them for you.
It's all right. It's good for me to try and walk. Here.
Gracious, they're beautiful. Did you really do these?
Do you mean to say your father doesn't think these are good?
He hates my pictures. He forbids me to draw. He thinks it's a feeble thing for a man to do. So I only do it in secret now.
They looked at Martin sympathetically. No wonder he always looked miserable and sullen. The children stayed and had tea with him. Then they washed up and cleared away. But nobody felt as if they wanted to see Mr. Curtin. Now they knew how hard he could be on Martin.
Thanks for a lovely afternoon.
You just stick out for your painting too.
Yes, I will. But there are things that make it difficult, things that I can't tell you. Oh well, never mind. I dare say it'll all come right one day. Bye.
Bye.
Horrid man. Forbidding Martin to do what he really longs to do. And he seemed so nice and jolly and all over us, didn't he?
Very. But there are a lot of people like that. One thing at home, quite another outside.
I hope Mr. Curtin hasn't been trying to explore that passage in the side of the quarry. It would be too bad if he butted in.
The evening went very quickly. Julian watched for his uncle's signal, and needless to say, George was at the window too. They waited for 10:30. And then came the first flash from the lantern in the tower, followed by 5 more. Now they could all go to bed in peace. Next morning dawned bright and sunny again. The April sky was as blue as the forget-me-nots coming out in the garden. At breakfast, George gazed out of the dining room window, wondering if Timmy was running about her island. Then she went up to the Coast Guard's cottage to look through his powerful telescope to see if she could spot him. Just before 10:30, Julian went up to his window to watch for the signal again. He waited patiently. A few seconds after the half hour, the flashes came. Good. Now George would settle down for the day. At about 5 minutes to 11, there was the sound of running feet and panting breath. George appeared at the door of the sitting room, red in the face with her hair windblown.
Julian! Dick! Something's happened! Timmy wasn't there!
What do you mean?
It's serious! Timmy wasn't in the tower when the signals came.
Well, it only means that your absent-minded father forgot to take him up with him. What did you see?
I had my eyes glued to the telescope, and suddenly I saw someone come into the little glass room at the top. I looked for Timmy, but he wasn't there. The 6 flashes came, the man disappeared. That was all. Oh, why didn't I stay with Timmy?
Wait till tomorrow morning, then probably you'll see Timmy.
Tomorrow morning? Why? That's ages away.
Oh, do pull yourself together, George.
Bedtime came. The girls got into bed at about 9:45. Anne was tired and fell asleep at once. As soon as George heard her regular breathing, she crept quietly out of bed and dressed again. She pulled on her warmest jersey, got her raincoat, rubber boots and a thick rug, and tiptoed downstairs. Out the side door she went, and into the night. There was a moon, so it was not as dark as usual. George was glad, for she was planning to row to Kirrin Island. She would be able to see her way through the rocks. It was more difficult than she expected, but cleverly she managed to make her way between the rocks. At last, she swung her boat into the little cove. She pulled the boat up as far as she could and went to the little stone room. It was pitch black in there, of course, so George had to put on her torch. She began to search for the hiding place. Where could the entrance be? She flashed her torch onto every flagstone in the floor of the room. Then, as she sat in the dark trying to puzzle out where the hidden entrance could be, she heard a sound.
What's that? There's a beam of light coming from the fireplace there. A cough. Who can it be?
Come on!
That's not Father's voice. I better hide.
I'm not used to all this crawling about, I can tell you.
That's not Father either. So there are two unknown enemies, and they know my father's secret workroom. Whatever can have happened to him? And to Timmy?
Well, let's get up the tower then.
About time, too.
Thank goodness they haven't seen me. But where did they come from? The fireplace? Let's have a look with my torch. An opening halfway up the back of the fireplace. And steps. This could be the entrance. Now, will it join the dungeons from here? They can't be far off. I must be very deep down. Very deep down and far from the castle. Good gracious! Whatever's that awful noise? Why, I believe it's the sea. Yes, it is the sea. The sea over my head. I'm under Kirrin Bay. Now, what was it that Father said? He needed water around him and above him. Hello? What am I coming to now?
The passage had suddenly widened out into an enormous dark cave. George stared all around her. She saw strange things there she didn't understand at all. Wires, glass boxes, little machines whose centres were alive with funny shivering light. From this Aladdin's cave another tunnel led. It was much like the other one, but the roof was higher. She came to another cave, smaller this time, then down another passage into yet another cave. And the first thing she saw beyond this cave was a light. Perhaps she was coming to the cave her father might be in. She went on, wondering why Timmy had not heard her and come to greet her. Then she saw her father, sitting at a table, his head in his hands.
Father!
Huh?
Father, what's the matter? Oh, Father, what's the matter? Where's Timmy?
George, is it really you? George, I thought I must be dreaming when I looked up and saw you. How did you get here? Good gracious, it's impossible.
What's happened? And where's Timmy?
Did you see two men? Where were they?
Oh, Father, we keep asking each other questions and not answering them. Tell me first, where's Timmy?
I don't know. Did those two men go to the tower?
I think so.
Then we've got about an hour in peace. Now listen carefully.
I'm listening, but do tell me about Timmy.
Those two men parachuted down onto the island to try and find out my secret. I'll tell you what my experiments are for, George. They're to find a way of giving the world all the heat and power it wants. And I should give the secret to the whole world. It shouldn't be in the power of any one country. But those men want my secret for themselves, so they can make colossal fortunes out of it.
But how did they hear of it?
One of my colleagues betrayed us and went to some powerful businessmen to tell them of my idea. So I decided to come here in secret and finish my experiments by myself.
Oh, Father, and I made such a fuss. I could go back and bring help, couldn't I?
Yes, but you mustn't let those men see you, George.
But first, tell me about Timmy.
Well, he kept by me all the time. He's a wonderful dog, George. And this morning, just as I was coming out of the entrance to that little room, the two men pounced on me and forced me back here.
And Timmy?
Somehow they lassoed him with a rope and caught him. He nearly choked.
Oh, poor Timmy. Is he all right?
Yes, I saw one of them with some dog biscuits this evening.
I must find him.
No, George. There's something very important I want to say. I have a book in which I have made notes of this experiment. The men haven't found it. I want you to take it safely to the mainland, George, and don't let it out of your sight.
I'll do my best, Father. I'll hide in one of the caves until the men come back, and then I'll get out, go to the boat, and row back.
Good girl. Honestly, George, I'm proud of you.
He handed George a slim book, which she stuffed into her mackintosh pocket. She left her father's cave and went into the next one. On she went down a passage that twisted and turned, and then she heard a sound she longed to hear.
Timmy, oh Timmy, I'm coming! Where are you? Trapped behind this rock? Don't worry, I'll get you out. There! Out you come, boy. Now we've got work to do. We've got to escape from here and get help. I've got a very, very important book here in my pocket, Timmy. What is it?
Well, I don't know who you are or where you come from, but if you dare let that dog loose, he'll be shot. And here's something to let you know I mean what I say. Now, whoever you are, come out now. But I warn you, if that dog's with you, that's the end of him.
Timmy, you have to hide. Here, take Father's book. Put it in your mouth. Now go, Timmy, go. I'll be all right.
Will you come up the passage or not? You'll be sorry if I have to come and fetch you.
Off you go, boy. I'm coming.
Heavens! The boy! What are you doing here?
I came to find my father.
George, are you all right?
Yes, Father.
What's happening? Why were you shooting?
I found this kid. Silly little idiot. It's just lucky he couldn't set that dog free. I'd have shot it.
How'd the boy get here?
I rowed.
You couldn't have. Oh, yes, George, could. You know the sea round here like the back of your hand, don't you, George?
Well, now this complicates matters. If he doesn't go home, he'll be missed. We don't want anyone here at present, not until we know what we want to know. If you tell us what we want to know and give us your notes, we'll set you free. Give you whatever sum of money you ask for and disappear ourselves.
And if I don't?
Well, then I'm afraid we shall blow up the whole of your machines and the tower, and possibly you'll never be found again, 'cause you'll be buried down here.
You couldn't do a thing like that.
It's all or nothing with us. We'll give you till 10:30 tomorrow morning. Then either you tell us everything or we blow the island sky high.
It's no good. I'll have to let them have my book of notes. I can't risk having you buried down here.
I haven't got the book of notes. I gave them to Timmy. I managed to get the stone away from Timmy's little prison, though the men think I didn't.
Fine work, George. Well, perhaps if you got Timmy here now, he could deal with them before they suspect he's free. He's quite capable of getting them both down on the ground at once.
Oh, yes! It's our only chance. I'll go and get him now.
So she made her way along the tunnel, past the cave where Timmy had been, and then on down the tunnel again. Still no Timmy. George rounded a corner and then saw the tunnel split into three. 3 different passages, all dark, silent and cold. She didn't know which one to take, but took the one on the left. But that also split into 3 a little way on. George stopped.
I shall get absolutely lost in this maze of tunnels if I go on. I simply daren't. It's too frightening. Timmy! Timmy!
She retraced her steps and went back to her father's cave, feeling miserable. It was 4:30 in the morning, and back on the mainland, Anne awoke feeling very hot. She got up and went to the window. She opened it and looked out. The stars were out and the bay shone faintly. It was then she realised that George wasn't there. She went to the boys' room and shook Julian hard. He woke up with a jump.
What? What is it?
Julian, Dick! George is gone. Her bed's not been slept in. I'd bet she's gone to the island looking for Timmy.
What? Blow! I might have guessed she'd do a stupid thing like that.
In the middle of the night, too.
We can't do anything now, I suppose, can we?
Not a thing. I've no doubt she's safely on Kirrin Island by now.
What's that noise downstairs?
It's Timmy!
Timmy! Has George brought him back? Is she here too?
Apparently not. I say, Timmy, what's this in your mouth? Drop it, old chap. It's a book of notes. In Uncle's handwriting. But how did Timmy get hold of it? Let's go and wake Aunt Fanny.
So they went and woke her up, telling her all they knew. She was very worried indeed to hear George had gone. She picked up the book of notes and knew at once it was very important.
I must put this in the safe. But how did Timmy get hold of it?
What is this, old boy? How did you get here? You didn't swim. And if you came in a boat, it must have been with George. But you've left her behind.
I think something's happened to George. I think Timmy keeps pouring you to tell you to go with him and find her.
But you've left her behind.
I think something's happened to George. I think Timmy keeps pouring you to tell you to go with him and find her. Perhaps she was terribly tired and fell asleep on the beach.
Yes, you're right. Let's get dressed and follow him.
When they were dressed, they all followed Timmy out of doors. But he didn't head for the beach as they expected. Instead, he made for the old quarry and disappeared into the tunnel that George had discovered before.
He's gone into the tunnel under there, where we thought we might explore but didn't. But is George down there?
I'll go first.
Can you see Timmy?
No, it's too dark. We must get some torches.
Look, there's Martin. What's he doing here? You're up early. And are you gardening or something? Why the spades?
Look here, Martin. There's some funny business going on here. What are you doing with those spades? Have you seen George? Come on, tell me!
George? No, what's happened to him?
Look, George isn't a him, she's a her. She's disappeared. We thought she'd gone to the island to find her dog. Then Timmy appeared and brought us here.
So it looks as if George might be somewhere here. And I want to know if you've seen her. And what are you doing with those spades? And who are you waiting for? Your father?
Yes. And what are you going to do? Explore the hole there? Yes, no harm in that, is there?
Good gracious, what's up? Pull yourself together, Martin. Tell us what's worrying you.
Everything. You don't know what it's like to have no mother or father.
But you have got a father.
I haven't. He's only my guardian, but it makes me call him father when we're on the job together.
A job? What sort of job?
Oh, any kind, all beastly. Snooping around and finding things out about people and getting money from them if we promise not to say anything, and helping people like the men who are after your uncle's secrets.
Ah, now we're coming to it. I thought you and Mr. Curtin were both interested in Kirrin Island. What's this job then?
He'll half kill me for telling you all this. But they're planning to blow up the island. And I know your uncle is there, and perhaps George too. I can't go on with it.
How do you know this?
He's got a transmitter, as you know, and so have the fellows on the island, so they can keep in touch with one another. They mean to get your uncle's secret if they can. And if not, they're going to blow the whole place sky high so nobody can get the secret. But they can't get away by boat because they don't know the way through the rocks.
Well, how will they get away?
We think the hole Timmy found the other day leads down under the sea bed to Kirrin Island. Mr. Curtin's got an old map which shows there was once a passage under the sea.
I see it very clearly now. And something else. Timmy has found his way from the island using that same passage. That's why he's led us here, to take us to the island and rescue Uncle Quentin and George. Martin, you did right to tell us. We may be able to prevent something dreadful. We may need those spades of yours, and I expect you've got torches too. So will you come with us and help us?
Would you trust me? If we go now, my guardian won't be able to follow because he hasn't got a torch.
Good for you. Come on then. Anne, you go back and tell Aunt Fanny what's happening.
Yes, all right. Be careful.
Anne watched as the three boys disappeared into the hole. Timmy, who had been waiting impatiently during the talking, was glad they were going to make a move. He ran ahead in the tunnel. Anne began to climb up the steep side of the quarry. Then she heard a cough. She stopped and crouched under a bush. She peered through the leaves and saw Mr. Curtin. Suddenly he slipped. He clutched at a bush as he passed, but it gave way. He caught sight of her briefly, then Anne heard him give a cry as at last he came to a stop. He was sitting holding one of his legs and groaning. He looked up.
Anne! I've broken my leg, I think. Can you fetch help? What are you doing here so early? Have you seen Martin?
You're a very wicked man. I shan't fetch help for you. I simply can't bear you.
And, having got that off her chest, she shot off at top speed over the moor to Aunt Fanny's. Meanwhile, the three boys and Timmy were having a strange journey underground. Timmy led the way without faltering.
We've come practically straight towards the cliff. The tunnel has sloped down so steeply the last few 100 yards. I think we must be far underground indeed. What's that noise? We're under the sea up to Kirrin Island. How astonishing. Lead on, Timmy.
Marvellous, isn't he? All done by smell. He's been this way once, so he knows it again. We'd be completely lost if we came by ourselves.
Do you think we're anywhere near the island yet?
Yes, we must be. In fact, we'd better be quiet, in case we come suddenly on the enemy. Look, there's a light ahead. Shh, I can hear voices. It's George and Uncle Quentin.
Timmy, where have you been? Julian, Dick, and Martin. How did you get here?
I'll explain later. Where are the two men?
Somewhere on the island. I followed them into that little stone room. I think they're there until 10:30, when they go up and signal so people will think that everything is all right.
And I've been given 7 hours to say whether or not I will give them my secret. That time will be up by 10:30. Then they'll come down again. I think between us we ought to be able to capture them, especially as we've now got Timmy.
Yes, that's a good idea. We could...
Keep still. One movement and I'll shoot. Will you or will you not give us your secret?
Not.
You'll have this whole island and all your work blown up then, along with you and the others.
You can do what you like. You'll be blown up too. You'll never be able to get away in a boat. You'll go on the rocks.
We shall be safe. Now keep at the back of the cave, all of you. I have you covered.
They're escaping down the sea tunnel.
We have to escape too. My boat's on the shore. Let's get there quickly before there's an explosion.
Yes, come along. But if only I could get up into my tower, I could stop that wicked plan of theirs. They mean to use the power there, I know. But if I could get up to the glass room, I could undo all their plans.
Oh, do be quick then, Father. Save the island if you can.
They all made their way through the cave up to the passage that led to the flight of stairs from the little stone room. And there they had a shock. The stone could not be opened from the inside. The men had altered the mechanism. They sat down on the steps, cold, hungry and miserable. What could they do now? Should they make their way down the sea tunnel?
I don't want to do that. If there's an explosion, it may crack the seabed and the tunnel would be flooded.
Listen, there's something outside this wall.
I know. It's the fishermen who have come over in their boats. That's why the men didn't wait until 10:30. They saw the fishing boats coming.
Then Anne must have brought them. Anne! men! We're here!
The fishermen managed to move the stone clear, and as soon as they did, Uncle Quentin ran out of the room and to the top of the tower. He took with him a big stone. As everyone watched, he smashed the glass round the tower, and the wires that ran through it were broken. No power could race through them now. Uncle Quentin leaned out and shouted,
It's all right. I was in time. 10 minutes more and I should have been too late. Thank goodness, Anne, you all arrived when you did.
I ran all the way home, and we got the fishermen to come over as soon as they got their boats. We couldn't think of any other way of rescuing you. Where are the wicked men?
Trying to escape down the sea tunnel.
Sea tunnel?
It runs from here to the old quarry.
We ought to get back quickly to catch them at the other end.
Oh, gracious, Mr. Curtin will still be there. I forgot about him.
The others looked at her in surprise. This was the first they'd heard about Mr. Curtin being in the quarry. As soon as the boats reached shore, Julian, Dick, Timmy and Uncle Quentin rushed off to the quarry. Mr. Curtin was there all right, still groaning. And at that moment the police arrived, scrambling down the steep sides of the quarry. George was sure the other two men were lost underground and sent Timmy in, certain that they wouldn't hurt him if they thought he could show them the way out. Then everyone sat and waited until they heard Timmy's bark again from underground. Finally there was a panting noise, then a scraping sound as somebody came wriggling out.
Good morning, Johnson. How are you?
What? How the... You win.
I do. In fact, I win handsomely. My secret is still safe. And next year it will be given to the whole world.
Someone else is coming.
Good morning, Peters. Nice to see you again. How did you like your walk underground? We found it better to come by sea. What's happened?
It's all up.
Timmy!
I bet they were glad when Timmy came up to them.
Yeah, we were lost in those hateful tunnels. Curtin said he'd come to greet us, but he never came.
No, he'd probably be in prison by now with a broken leg. Well, Constable, do your duty.
Both men were at once arrested. Then everyone went back over the moor. The two men were put into a police car and driven off. The rest went into Kirrin Cottage to have a good meal. It was a very jolly breakfast that the 7 of them, no 8, for Timmy must certainly be counted, sat down to. Martin, now that he was free of his guardian, became quite a different boy. After breakfast, they went out into the garden. They looked across Kirrin Bay to Kirrin Island. It looked lovely in the morning sun.
We've had a lot of adventures together, more than most children, and they have been exciting, haven't they?
Yes, they have. But now we must say goodbye to the 5. Julian, Dick, George, Anne, and Timmy, and to Kirrin Island too.